All right, guys. So basically, in this session, we're just focusing on quadratic and fractions, as I said to you guys before. So the first three questions, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do it for you guys. I'll show you guys how it actually works out. If you already know how to do it, fantastic. But if you don't know how to do it, so you guys can have a look at how I do this. And then I'm going to give you guys three similar questions like this, so you guys can actually have a crack at it, all right? Now, as I said to you guys before, if you have a graphics calculator, this part becomes really super simple. If you don't have a graphics calculator, then you have to use the quadratic formula, which we've actually been using quite a bit in your in our other standard that we did. Okay, so with the first question, anytime you're dealing with quadratic, remember that you want to rearrange it so that you can actually put it equal to 0. So I'm going to put this as 12x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals to 0. And once you do that, if you have a graphics calculator, you can write down A is equal to 12, B equals to minus 5, C equals to minus 2, and you put it in the calculator to actually figure out what it is. So go into equation, and then go into polynomial, degree 2, and write down those all those values. So you've got 12, minus 5, minus 2. And as you can see, those are your two answers. So you got 2/3 as one of your answer, or negative 1/4 as your other answer. All right, so we're going to write that down here. X is equal to 2/3, or negative 1/4. So yeah, just keeping an eye on those numbers there. So if you have a graphics calculator, it spits out the answer straight away. But I end up using the fraction there, which is 2/3, which shows in the right corner. So you don't have a graphics calculator, not a problem. Just do this with the quadratic formula. So you got x equals minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Yes, it takes a bit of time, but you're still going to be on the right track. So negative 5 plus or minus b is negative 5 squared minus 4 times 12 times negative 2. And all of that is over 2 times 12. Now, if you do use the quadratic formula in the exam, they generally should come up with nice answers. Like, they shouldn't be like really ugly looking answers or anything like that. Like, it wouldn't be like a long decimal number. They should be all right. So here I'm going to get 5 plus or minus square root of 5 squared is 25. And then negative 4 times 2 times 12. Just put it in your calculator, just your normal one. So if you have your normal mode there, I've got negative 4 times 12 times negative 2. 96 over 2 times 12 is 24. All right. 5 plus or minus 25 plus 96 is 121. And straight away, you can kind of see that it's going to work out real nicely. And I think that's something that you guys need to know. If you don't have a graphics calculator and you're using the quadratic formula, this number should end up being a nice number, hopefully. All right. Like, otherwise, I don't think they'll be that horrible. But because square root of 121 could be written as just 11. So we've got 5 plus or minus 11 over 24. So my two answers for x is going to be 5 plus 11 over 24 and 5 minus 11 over 24. And if I do this in the calculator now, just make sure you put 5 plus 11 in a bracket. So there you go. My first answer is that. And if I want to convert it to a fraction, just click on, I think for your normal calculators, you click on ABC button and it changes from a fraction to decimal. All right. So my first answer is 2/3. And then my second answer, I'm just going to go back and get rid of the plus to make it minus. It's going to be negative 0.25. So if I go fraction again, it's negative 1/4. All right, guys. So yeah, it is a bit more work with the quadratic formula, but you still can do this without a graphics calculator. It just saves a bit of time, that's all. All right, so going to question number 2. Question number 2, what you have is a quadratic equals a number. Again, remember, you can only get to use the quadratic formula if you bring it in with those three terms, like ax squared plus bx plus c. So what you got to do is expand the brackets. So what I would like you guys to do is expand the brackets, rearrange to a quadratic, put it equal to 0, and solve. I'll give you guys about 5 minutes to just have a go at that, all right? Just going through question B here. So first expanding the brackets. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And all of this equals to 11. I want to bring everything to one side and simplify as well. So first thing is looking at this 8x minus x. That's going to be 7x. So I've got 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. And I'm going to bring the 11 to this side. It becomes minus 11. And all of that is equal to 0. So I have 2x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals to 0. So it's just sometimes you have to do like a couple of extra steps to get it into a quadratic. But once you get into the quadratic, then you've got your A, B, and C, and you can actually solve it straight away. Because then here A is 2, B is 7, C is minus 15. So going into my graphics calculator here. Punch in those numbers. You got 2, 7, and negative 15. So there's my two answers. I've got 1.5 and negative 5. But I'm going to show you guys how to do it using the quadratic formula as well. So you've got x equals minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac. And the whole thing is over 2a. So I've got minus 7 plus or minus 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 15. And all of that is divided by 2 times 2. Now what I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to show you guys how to do this entire thing in one line, just to save time. So just click on 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 15. Just in one line, just do it in one shot. That's 169. And if you want, you can even take square root of it in the next one straight away. So square root of 169 is actually 13. And remember I told you guys, you should get nice numbers. If you don't get nice numbers, you probably made some mistakes with some of your calculations. So that becomes plus or minus square root of 169 over 4. And we've got minus 7 plus or minus 13 over 4. So we can now split this up as x equals negative 7 plus 13 over 4 or negative 7 minus 13 over 4. And again, you guys can just use your calculator for this if you're not too confident. Negative 7 plus 13 over 4 is 1.5. And your second answer, let's go back and get rid of that plus to a minus, and you got negative 5 as your second answer. Okay? As I said to you guys, yes, having the graphics calculator is an advantage in terms of how fast you can do this. But think about this in the long term. The more you practice with your quadratic formula, the better you get with just being kind of like careful with how you substitute your numbers and so on. Okay? In terms of grades, guys, you're still going to get the same grade, whether you use the quadratic formula or the graphics calculator for this particular question. All right, next question. Do you guys need a bit of time or do you want me to go through it? Go through it? All right. So what we're going to do is expand the brackets. First, we've got x times 2x, which is, I'm just going to move this first. So what I've got is x times 2x, which is 2x squared. And then x times 5x is just 5x. And this is equal to 7. And remember, you always got to put quadratic equal to 0. So we're going to write 2x squared plus 5x minus 7, because when we bring it across, the signs change, equals to 0. So if we look at our values, a is 2, b is 5, and c is minus 7. So going into the graphics calculator, we're going to put in those values. So we got 2, 5, negative 7. And there's our two answers. We should be getting 1 and negative 3.5 as our answers. But if you're going to use your graphics calculator, quadratic formula, then x equals, write it down first. By the way, guys, the quadratic formula will be given to you in your exam. It's not something you need to remember. It will be given to you guys. So we got minus 5 plus or minus 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 7. And the whole thing is divided by 2 times 2. So we're going to get negative 5 plus or minus. Now I'm going to do this, whatever's in this square root in one line. If you want to do it in one line, you can do it. But just remember, you got to start with a bracket after that square root symbol. And this can be done in your regular calculator as well. So square root symbol, and then a bracket, and then I'm going to go 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 7, and then close bracket. Nice number, 9. So I've got negative 5 plus or minus 9 over 2 times 2 is 4. So there's my x's now. So I've got negative 5 plus 9 over 4, or negative 5 minus 9 over 4. And so here, negative 5 plus 9 is 4. 4 over 4 is just 1. And I've got negative 14 divided by 4, which is negative 3.5. Okay? So that's literally it for the quadratic, guys. And what I'm going to do now is go into some fractions, particularly algebraic fractions. I'm just looking for a question, and I'll put a question up, and we'll actually go through those questions, all right? All right, guys, so with algebraic fractions, there is 2 types of the questions they could ask you guys. One is they will ask you to write it as a single fraction, or they could ask you to solve the algebraic fraction. Now, the first part we're gonna be looking at is writing it as a single fraction. All right. So with a single fraction, what happens is all you got to do is you got to make sure your final answer is one single fraction and it's simplified to the fullest. So I'll go through the question A, B, and then I'm going to give you a question very similar to that so you guys can actually have a go at it. So with the first one, what I notice is that I've got 2 components. My first component is just 4 by itself, and my second component is this fraction here. Now also notice that with the 4, I don't actually have a denominator. All right, if I want to put 2 fractions together, I need to make sure that the denominators are the same. All right, so that means I need to figure out how I can have 3b underneath the 4. All right, and that's not too bad, because what I do is I write the question like this: 4 plus a plus 2b over 3b. And because I want to have a denominator of 3b here, all right, I've got to make sure, and I think about it like this: anytime you have a number, by itself, it can be written as 4 over 1. All right, but we just don't write that 1, right? We just leave it as just 4. But because we want that 1 to be now converted to 3b, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 3b for the 1. But if we do something in the denominator, we also have to do it for the numerator. So I'm going to multiply by 3b for the numerator as well. Okay, and when I do this, I've got 4 times 3b, which is 12b, over 3b, plus a plus 2b over 3b. And now, because both of these denominators are the same, I can actually write this as one fraction. So I can write this as 12b plus a plus 2b divided by 3b. But there's one more step that I need to do here. And that step is, because I have a 12b here and a 2b here, I need to combine them together. Okay, because I'm collecting the like terms. This is going to be 14b plus a over 3b. So the only thing that you need to remember is that when you have a number by itself, that number can be written as the number divided by 1. All right, and when you're combining 2 fractions together, you need to make sure that the denominators are the same. I'm talking about the bottom numbers. They got to be the same. So if you guys look at question B here, B right now the denominator here is x plus 1, while the denominator for the other one, the other fraction, is x minus 1. So that means I'm going to do this. I'm going to put both of those denominators in a bracket, but this time I don't have any kind of, like numbers that I can work with. The only thing that I can do is, because it's x plus 1 and x minus 1, I multiply the denominator here by x plus 1 and the numerator by x plus 1. As for the left-hand side fraction, I'm going to multiply by x minus 1 and the numerator by x minus 1. So now what we have is, we've got, if you can see with the colors, you can actually see it. Both of these denominators are the same now. Yeah? And now, because both of these denominators are the same, I'm going to put it all in just one denominator. Combine it all. And in the top, oh, you're talking about a different question. So here then we've got 3 times x minus 1 plus 2 times x plus 1. Is that okay then? So all I've done is I've literally just brought this 3 to the front there so that I can actually expand the brackets. So in the next line, I've got 3 times x, 3 times negative 1, and I've got 2 times x, and then 2 times positive 1. So I'm going to get 3x, 3 times negative 1 is 3, plus 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 1 is 2. And all of this, I don't need to do anything to the denominator. I can just leave it as it is. I can just leave it as it is. I don't have to touch it. Now I need to collect my like terms. So I've got 3x and 2x, and my numbers together. I've got minus 3 and plus 2. So this is going to be 5x minus 1 over x minus 1 times x plus 1. That's how you combine it together to make it into one fraction. Any questions, guys, on that? Would you guys like to try a couple? I'll give you guys very similar questions so you guys can have a go at it, all right? And I'll leave the working up there for you guys to have a look at it. So this is going to be... Okay, there's your 2 questions, A and B at the bottom there. I would like you guys to try it and write it as a single fraction. And I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to do this. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, just have a go at it. I know this question just popped up here. So we've got this one here is a merit question actually. So question A is merit type of question. And I think the other fraction one is an achieved one. I'm sure of it. Let me just check. Yeah, I'm doing the achieved versions for those ones. Oh no, merit in 2014. I think I know why they put it as merit. Yeah. These two questions are merit questions that we're looking at the moment. So have a go, guys. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Questions here. Just remember, there's a reason why these questions pop up with a merit. Now, the biggest thing that people make mistake with is not recognizing this particular minus sign here. All right. Now, in the previous question, I gave it to you as a plus. Because I gave it to you as a plus, I think that'll actually be only achieved questions. But however, maybe I'm not correct on that, but I'm just going to leave that as merit for now. But that minus will have a huge impact on your final answer. So let's have a look how we do this. So we got 3, take away 2x plus 3y. Over 2x. Now remember, 3 can be written as just 3 over 1. So that's what I'm going to do. And I want to have 2x as the denominator. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 2x, multiply the numerator by 2x. All good so far? We're going to get 6x over 2x minus 2x plus 3y over 2x. I'm assuming you guys got all of this. However, this is the next part you need to be very careful about. This minus actually affects not just 2x, but it also affects the 3y. Okay? So when you write this, get into the habit of writing it like this. 6x minus the whole 2x plus 3y and the whole thing over 2x. Because I'm betting that at least 3 or 4 of you got this as your answer, which would be 4x plus 3y over 2x. Is that? I'm betting at least 3 of you. Yeah? If you get that, you're only going to get an achieved. And the reason is because of that minus sign there. That minus sign is going to have, I told you, it's going to have an impact on the 2x and the 3y. Because that whole thing has been put in the brackets. So when we actually take it out of the brackets, minus times 2x is minus 2x. Minus times 3y is actually minus 3y. Okay? And every year, people make that mistake. They forget how much power that one little minus has over the brackets. So we're going to put this as 2x. And so our final answer is going to be 4x minus 3y over 2x. This answer gets you a merit. This answer, unfortunately, only gets you an achieve. Now, you're losing 3 points because of that minus. That's why when you're dealing with fractions, always have a look at the fractions and go, is there a minus sign in front of that fraction? Because it's going to change a couple of those elements there. All right? Now, one other thing that I've seen people do is this. They see those two x's and decide to cancel it. And then they cancel the 4 and the 2, and they write this as 2 minus 3y as the final answer. Now, if you did that, I'm sorry to say this, guys, you will get no grades for that. Okay? Because you can't just cancel two elements like that. But you can do, what you can do is you can do something like this if you want. But that defeats the purpose, because then you're going to separate it into a, because remember I wanted you guys to write it as a single fraction. So this is absolutely fine. You leave it right here, and then that becomes a merit there. So, going to question B. Is that all right with question A? Yeah? Question B, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to write this down, 7x minus 2. I'm going to put x minus 2 in a bracket. Minus 3 times x plus 1. I'm going to put x plus 1 in a bracket. And because these two things are different, I've got two completely different elements for the denominator. What I'm going to make is I'm going to multiply this by x and the numerator by x, and the denominator I'm going to multiply by x and also the numerator by x. So basically what I've got here is x minus 2, and then on this side I've got x plus 1 and x plus 1. So putting this all together, I'm going to get 7x plus 1 minus 3 times x minus 2, and the whole thing is divided by x plus 1, x minus 2. Okay? Now expand the brackets. So you got 7 times x and 7 times 1. So you're going to get 7x plus 7. Then you got minus 3 times x and minus 3 times minus 2. And my work, where did it go? And again, I've seen people miss that minus 3 times minus 2 and they write it as minus 6. I've seen people do that. Just be careful with it, all right? So we've got minus 3x, but minus 3 times minus 2 is plus 6. And the whole thing is over x plus 1 times x minus 2. So once again, guys, collect your like terms. So 7x minus 3x is together. 7 and 6 is together. And what you have is 4x plus 13. And the whole thing is over x plus 1 times x minus 2. That also gets you guys a merit there, that question. Are we happy with those questions so far? All right, guys. Unfortunately, we only got like another 8 minutes left. I'm actually going to call this here, but what we'll do is tomorrow we'll continue with some more of these questions, but I'll actually upload this video in the next half an hour once it's actually converted. The first video that I did on powers and logs, it's already up. You guys can actually watch that as well. And then at night time, I'll be doing some word questions and I'll record that as well. Okay, that's it. Thank you.